goodness. Now he paralyzed in jail. Them boys finna have fun with him. So today we'll be watching Rejected Boyfriend Kills Her Family. Huh? Oh, okay. Rejected Boyfriend Kills Her Family for Revenge. The Hunt Family Murders. Oh, man. But before I start this off, bro, if a girl rejects you, bro, just let it go. Like, you gonna live, bro. Like, so let her have the ability to live also. But let's get right into it.
On a warm and drizzly July evening in 2024, a man carrying a crossbow concealed beneath a white sheet exited a family home on Ashland Close in the leafy town of Bushy in Hertfordshire. Over the previous 5 hours, this man had enacted a plan to massacre 3 female members of the same family. His actions had been mapped out for weeks. As word of the horrific murders spread across the country, fear of the attacker merged with grief for the victims. And investigators set out to find answers. Hi there, I'm Kevin and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is a higher profile one than those that we often cover here at JTL. Perhaps you've heard of it, or maybe have followed the information as authorities have released pieces over the past year. It is one that contains the kind of unsettling details that stay with you long after you've heard the story. For us here at JTL, it hits close to home. Let's take a look.
Get into it.
The town of Bushy in the east of England is considered a wealthy commuter town, roughly 16 miles from London. It is known for its rural charm and a blending of city and country living. Bushy has a pub and a church green at its center. Like so many places where brutal and shocking murders have been reported, Bushy was once considered a town where nothing of the sort could ever possibly occur. That changed on the evening of July 9th, 2024. At 6:58 p.m., 28-year-old Hannah Hunt placed an emergency call using her mother's cell phone. She was at her home in Bushy, which was shared with her 2 parents, Carol and John, as well as one of her sisters, 25-year-old Louise. She told the operator that a man was inside the house. "He shot us," she said. Though seriously injured, Hannah offered what information she could. 12 minutes later, emergency services arrived. Inside the house, they found 61-year-old mother Carol and youngest daughter Louise already dead. Valiant attempts to resuscitate Hannah ultimately failed. She too was pronounced deceased. Both daughters died from crossbow bolt injuries. Carol had been stabbed to death. 2 members...
Oh my God, bro had a crossbow, bro. Bro, do you think this is brave? Jesus, man. And he stabbed her, bro. He made it personal. I ain't gonna lie, he made it personal.
Of the family, Father John and a third daughter, Amy, were the only survivors. They were not at the house at the time of the attack.
Man.
The murderer fled the scene before police arrived.
She told to go inside there because there might be a man on the loose there with the crossbow. So we all went upstairs and kept on popping our head like most of the neighbours there through the windows kind of thing there, so a bit of window watching.
I mean, what was that like on a normal evening, being told there's a man with a crossbow nearby?
It's unnerving.
We were all very anxious. We were on edge all night, unable to sleep until the very early hours of the morning because we're just seeing a flood of blue lights, helicopters, sirens everywhere. We were all very scared.
Bit of a shock because it's a really residential area and there isn't... nothing much ever goes on round here at all, apart from people.
What do you mean by that? He for sure, that was for sure. There's not even gang violence. There's not even, like, I know you, bro.
We're going back and forwards to work, you know, and back and forwards to where they go. Never saw anybody round here carrying a crossbow at all, never at all.
As news of the killings spread from the streets of Bushy to the national media, many already horrified viewers were further devastated to learn that the victims were family members of a familiar public figure.
Yeah.
BBC racing commentator John Hunt.
Carlingford locked and AP McCoy, get up! Of course he did! Carlingford.
John was covering a horse racing event miles away when his wife and daughters were murdered. The last text he had from them came from Louise's phone at 5:52 p.m. and asked, "What time are you home?" John replied that, unfortunately, he would be late. Saturday races have a later start than usual, he said. Then he wrote, "Everything okay, sweetness?" Only later, the husband and father would learn that this last message was received not by his youngest daughter, but rather her killer.
Wow.
The family was extremely well liked in the community. They were also a close household. 2 daughters in their 20s still happily lived at home. They even vacationed together as a family. Both women had also launched their own successful careers. Hannah had established herself as a talented beautician, first working at a local anti-aging clinic and later launching out on her own. She was in a long-term committed relationship with a man named Alex Klein. Louise had set up a small pod in the family's back garden where she ran Groom and Glow, a dog grooming service. Friends spoke of their shock and grief, also of the wonderful people that Louise, Hannah, and Carol were.
One of the loveliest persons, loveliest girl I ever knew. Always had a smile and very positive and hardworking. So genuinely a really, really sweet person.
Just a lovely girl. I just can't believe it's happened. It's, like I say, it's a thing nightmares are made of. She was the nicest, kindest, sweetest person that you could ever meet. Beautiful, beautiful person.
The hours and days after the murders grew tense, not just in Bushy, but across London, where officers with firearms were dispersed in search teams at targeted locations in the city. Their aim was to locate the killer, still armed with a crossbow. Though the suspect had escaped before emergency services arrived, law enforcement nonetheless knew exactly who they were looking for. It seems that Hannah, who had arrived home in the midst of the attack, had managed to send off a text to boyfriend Alex before being shot. Then, after sustaining her injuries, she had reached her mother's cell phone and managed to tell the 999 operator who was in the house. In her text, she wrote, "Call police immediately, to mine, now. Kyle here. Police, now. He's tying us up." To the operator, she said, "My sister's ex-boyfriend has come in and he shot us." The man she was referring to was Louise's recent ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Kyle Clifford. Kyle was the third of 3 siblings raised in Enfield, North London.
Am I tripping? Is that not Buddy we just saw? They resemble at least. Where's he at? Where's he at?
Really, really sweet person. Positive and hardworking.
Bro, Kyle look just like him. What, man?
Kyle Clifford. Kyle was the third of 3 siblings raised in Enfield, North London. It was in this area that initial efforts to locate Kyle focused. His family home was raided and searches carried out. Police also raided his brother's former address in the Enfield area, but with no success. Helicopters and drones took to the sky to assist, while the public was warned to keep an eye out for Kyle. But if he is spotted, Hertfordshire police instructed the public to stay as far away from him as possible. Crossbows can fire accurately from a surprisingly long distance.
Our overarching objective today is to protect public safety and to locate Kyle Clifford, who is wanted in connection with the murder of the 3 women in what we believe is a targeted incident. We have extensive police resources deployed to various locations in North London and also the Bushy area of Hertfordshire. The manhunt also involves armed police officers and specialist search teams responding at pace in the wake of what has been an horrific incident involving what is currently believed to be a crossbow, but other weapons may also have been used. If members of the public see Kyle Clifford, they urge not to approach him at any point and to dial 999 immediately.
News stations provided live coverage of the ongoing search. Then, on July 10th, reports emerged that Kyle was seen in the Lavender Hill Cemetery near his home in Enfield. Teams of armed officers descended on the cemetery from every angle. There, they located Kyle. By the time they reached him, he had fired one last crossbow bolt. This time, he was the target. Kyle was rushed to the hospital, where over the following 10 weeks, he would receive life-saving treatment. Eventually, Kyle Clifford recovered from the single shot he sustained.
Yeah, it's perfect. You saved his life just to put him in jail. I love it. That's what I'm talking about. Bro, I thought he was going to get the easy way out. No. You're not getting that. You're going to jail. Simple.
Though it left him paralyzed from the chest down.
Dang. Oh my goodness. Now he paralyzed in jail. Them boys finna have fun with him. Oh,
Kyle
man.
was not wholly unknown to law enforcement before he was named as the alleged crossbow killer. His family had a history with violent crime. Kyle's brother Bradley was in prison for murder. In 2017, at the age of 23, Bradley Clifford chased down two teenagers after they had struck his high-performance Ford Mustang EcoBoost's wing mirror with a bottle. They were both flung into the air by the collision, and one was beaten by Bradley as he lay on the ground, fatally injured. The other teen miraculously escaped with only minor injuries. Bradley was sentenced to 23 years. Kyle evidently was close to his older brother, visiting him in prison frequently, something that had never sat well with Louise. She viewed Kyle's unwillingness to acknowledge the brutality of Bradley's crime as representative of his character, listing this amongst other behaviors as reasons to distance herself from him. When Kyle's name was released to the public, others who knew him began to speak up. This included those who had served with him during his brief time in the Army. A fellow trainee who knew Kyle throughout their basic training in 2019 reported that at that time, he was immature for his age and had a chip on his shoulder. According to this trainee, he struggled to grasp basic military concepts, but just managed to reach the standard to pass training. It seems that after joining Her Majesty's Army in 2019, Kyle had remained in the service for just over 2 years. He spent 286 days over that period at home, however, claiming an undisclosed illness. When he finally quit in 2022, his commanding officer observed that his character is wholly unsuited to military employment, and he had no care nor concern beyond himself.
Man.
After leaving the Army, Kyle first sought employment as a fire and security systems installer at a St. Albans-based fire safety company before leaving that position and becoming a security guard. He was subsequently fired from that role not long before the murders took place. The reason for his dismissal has not been formally reported, though his comments about female coworkers, described as misogynistic, was rumored to have played a role. However Kyle had presented himself to peers and employers, he certainly made an effort to win over Louise Hunt. The two met on Bumble in December 2022, and over the next 18 months, they were in a serious and ostensibly committed relationship.
Bumble?
Unbeknownst to Louise, during this period, Kyle also carried on a romantic relationship with 2 other women whom he had connected with through his previous jobs. The Hunts were said to have welcomed Kyle with open arms. Secretly, friends reported that no one in the family was a fan of Louise's choice of partner. They described him as both arrogant and odd. Nonetheless, he was welcomed. Kyle joined them on family vacations. He spent days with them celebrating Christmas 2023 in the family home.
She looked like Kylie Jenner.
The breakup came in late June after the couple attended a wedding for a member of Kyle's family in the north of England. After traveling for hours for the event, Kyle boasted to Louise, in front of other guests, that he had slept with some of the other attendees. She later wrote to him that she found his treatment of her belittling and embarrassing. She wanted to end things. In the messages later retrieved by investigators, a pattern of attempted manipulation by Kyle emerged. After Louise expressed her discontent with the relationship, Kyle was at first defiant. He angrily pushed back at her, claiming that she was always making him the bad guy. When she did not back down, he feigned indifference. If she didn't like the way he acted or who he was as a person, so what? Her loss. Then, when that tactic also failed to bring her around, he tried begging. He could not imagine his life without her. He thought she would be his future wife. He would do anything for her. Louise, after a year and a half of what friends depicted as a controlling and unhealthy romance, stuck to her guns and called it quits. Her final text to Kyle read, "I'm sorry, Kyle, but I can't continue with what we have. I feel like it's been broken and I can't ignore how I've been feeling or made to feel in our relationship over the course of the year. I just feel right now I owe it to myself to take some space and walk away from my own sanity and health. I never want there to be anything nasty between us, ever. Take care of yourself, always, please." Eventually, Kyle responded with a message that must have set Louise at ease. He wrote, "Thank you for the clarity, Louise, so we can both start our healing process. I love you so much, and I will for a very long time. I will always be here for you if you ever need me. Please don't hesitate. I wish you all the best and take care of yourself too." Louise proceeded to do exactly what she had stated. She kept her distance from Kyle and assured herself that she had made the right decision. Just days following the breakup, she made a note on her phone. It was a sort of reminder of the reasons that she broke things off. It read, "When you're sad, look. His brother is in prison. He still sees him every other weekend and never said what he did was horrendous. His family is a mess. Racist comments. Says he doesn't like transgenders. Road rage. Belittling language."
Is she transgender? I would have never thought. I thought she looked like Kylie Jenner.
Said he has a higher IQ than all my family.
No. Don't even, no. Respectfully, kudos, but no.
Would tell me all the violent acts his brother and dad would do, and when I went to their house, he would find it amusing. While Louise focused on healthy behaviors and moving on, Kyle took a different approach. 4 days after Louise ended the relationship, he began performing searches online relating to crossbows. He visited websites where they could be purchased. Then, 3 days after that, he purchased a Horizon Cornet MXT 405 compound crossbow, a pack of 6 bolts, and a rope cocking device through Tactical Archery. He also ordered a CO2 Glock air pistol, though he did not have the patience to wait on its delivery. Kyle decided to commit the murders before the pistol arrived.
Wow.
Kyle's online purchases showed him actively planning the murders in the days prior, even as he was captured going about his regular routine. At the gym, mid-workout, Kyle paused to order a large kitchen knife, a high-level 10-inch butchering steel knife worth 89 pounds. At the home and hardware store B&Q, Kyle purchased rolls of duct tape. He would later use it to restrain Louise. At another store, he examined his options for rope. Then he stopped at a Halfords and purchased 2 cans of petrol gas. It was speculated that he planned to set fire to the house to destroy evidence, though when the time came, he did not do so. Even as Kyle ran his errands, planning out the murders, he found time to stop by a garden center with his family. This trip was made at 10 a.m. on July 9th, only hours before he would pack a knife and crossbow into his car and drive to the Hunt's house in Bushy.
So
Cold-blooded and calculated in his actions. There were so many opportunities to step away from what he's doing, but he had a plan from the very outset that included the pretense to get into the house.
At just after 1 p.m., Kyle left his home in Enfield, armed with a crossbow and carrying a knife in his backpack. Before he arrived at the Hunt's home in Bushy, he performed a search for Horse Racing Today, presumably to verify that Louise's father, John, would be away at work when he arrived at the house. Having confirmed that John would be absent, Kyle knocked on the door, telling Carol that he wished to return items of Louise's property to her. Recorded audio captured enough of the events that followed, allowing investigators to establish a precise timeline. Sometime around 2:45, Kyle attacked Carol, brutally stabbing her to death. Louise was in the back garden in her grooming pod at that time. Clients continued to come and go through the back gate, unaware of anything amiss inside. After killing Carol, Kyle was captured returning to his car to retrieve the crossbow, which he concealed under a white sheet. It was after 4 p.m. when Louise finally entered the house from the back garden to find Kyle waiting for her. Investigators speculated that at that time, Louise was bound with duct tape on her wrists and ankles. The two were alone in the house for roughly 3 hours. During this time, there was activity on Louise's phone. Her messages were read. Her Instagram was accessed. Kyle performed the search. If I unplug my smoke detector, will it go off? Clearly, he was rethinking his plan to set the house aflame. The text to John was sent just before 6 p.m., asking when he would be home. Having verified that John would be late, Kyle continued to wait. He knew Hannah would be returning from work by 7 p.m. Attacking her had formed part of his plan. Investigators determined from the audio captured inside that Louise was killed with a crossbow bolt shortly before her sister returned home. Upon entering, Hannah was heard stating, "What's wrong with you?" followed a short time later by screaming. Kyle was captured walking from the property towards his car at 6:55 p.m. Hannah, having also been shot, managed to place the call to emergency services 2 minutes later. By the time Kyle sat down with investigators, a complete timeline of the massacre had been pieced together. They had surveillance footage, cell phone data, doorbell recordings, and Kyle's own written notes, which had been saved on his device. When presented with this evidence, Kyle Clifford made only a few short statements. He stated, "Sorry," and "What I have done is atrocious." To everything else put to him, he replied, "No comment."
Do you accept, Kyle, that based on the evidence, that this is a premeditated murder of 3 people?
No comment.
Do you accept that you have meticulously planned this murder from the moment that you split up Louise?
No comment.
From the moment that she sent you that text message at the end of June, you began to plan her murder? Yes?
No comment.
On his phone, investigators discovered a letter written by Kyle and addressed to his family. It was divided into parts, each one dedicated to a different family member. Its tone was one of self-pity. It was clear that Kyle viewed himself as the victim.
Please don't think of this as me throwing my life away. I have lived, and I am grateful for everything and everyone that has been a part of it. It is now my time to leave and be at peace, as this is what I ultimately want. I know you will all have so many questions and wish you could have done something different to prevent this. However, none of you have failed, and there is simply nothing any of you could have done. This is my decision to just be at peace. You all have to take care of each other and speak to each other, as that will be the best thing for you all. I love you all so much. You okay, Carl? Just carry on. When you wrote that note, had you already planned the murders of Louise, Carol and Hannah? So I'm interested in the words "prevent this." So tell me what you mean by "prevent this." Do you mean the murders of Carol, Hannah and Louise?
Reading this letter aloud was the only time during the interview in which Kyle demonstrated any emotion. Kyle Clifford eventually pleaded guilty to the 3 murders, as well as charges related to his possession of offensive weapons, the knife and the crossbow. But there was one charge brought by the Crown to which he refused to admit guilt. The Crown alleged that Louise Hunt was raped by Kyle Clifford on the day of the murder. Based on DNA evidence, they alleged that the crime had taken place over the roughly 3 hours when Louise was held captive in her home. Even though the physical evidence of his guilt was overwhelming, Kyle Clifford nonetheless forced this issue to trial. No one involved was able to provide the reason he would fight this one allegation while admitting to all others. It was speculated, however, that this was Kyle's final bid to assert any form of control over his situation. The trial began in early March 2025. Kyle refused to attend the proceedings. A jury heard from medical experts who testified to the DNA evidence. The defense asserted the DNA sample linked to Kyle was from just over 2 weeks prior, when the two were still a couple and engaged in a consensual relationship. The prosecutor asked forensic scientist Martin Whitaker if the findings of intimate samples taken from Louise could be explained by intercourse taking place 16 days prior. The scientist told the jury that was not a reasonable explanation. 1 to 2 days before, maybe, but not 16. The jury took only 45 minutes to find Kyle Clifford guilty.
Wow.
You first killed her mother. Even on that day showed you nothing but kindness.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. The lineup fire. But like, I ain't know people wore this. Like, I mean, I know you be seeing like the judges and stuff be wearing this and stuff, but I never knew that they did that in real life. But we learned.
In the moments before you attacked her. You raped and killed Louise, who had been as gentle as she could in ending her relationship with you after your arrogance and anger proved too much for her to stand. Then you murdered Hannah Hunt, who had done nothing to harm you save supporting her little sister. The evidence I have heard shows you to be a jealous man, soaked in self-pity, a man who holds women in utter contempt.
Kyle was sentenced to 3 whole life orders for the murders and 30 years on the other charges.
Yes.
He will never be released from prison.
Let's go.
John Hunt offered a powerful and moving victim statement. He spoke of his grief and anger. To the man who so brutally murdered his wife and 2 of his daughters, he stated, "Just remember one thing. Whatever misery lies ahead for you, on your dying day, there will be no release for you. The screams of hell, I can hear them now. When they roll the red carpet out for you, your miserable fate will last for eternity."
Let's go, bro. Let's go. That's what I'm talking about, bro.
And that was the tragic
They
take.
got rid of this dude, bro. Like, they got rid of bro. But anyway, thank y'all for sticking around the video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I love y'all. Stay 3000. And peace. Love y'all.
I got big packs coming on the way. I got big stacks coming out to save. I got Lil Max with me, he the wave. It's a big gap between us in the game. In the next life, I'm trying to stay paid. When I die, put my money